Hey everyone, welcome to Founders 365 with me, Steven Haggerty. Today I'm joined by Moyse. He is a sales master. How are you today, Ian?
Well, that's flattering, and I'm well. We're both in the working from home, but everyone is now seen as becoming the working as unusual, I guess.
Yeah, the unusual has become the normal.
It has.
And it's a bank holiday, so thank you so much for showing up. So
No problem.
let's dive straight into it and just give me an overview of what you do and the expertise that you bring.
Sure. So I run sales teams, but I see that as facilitating salespeople to be successful, removing obstacles, mentoring, training, but also in reverse is learning from them. Something I think sales leaders often forget, or I often see things where people think sales leaders are fully baked, know everything. So you started that way. So I'm going to contravene that a little bit, I guess, is I've got experience that other people may not have had, but so have you, and so has everyone else and every salesperson, because we've all been on a different journey. And I don't know what they've experienced in what company they work for, and what environment they've been in, and what sales they. So everyone's got a different input to give to make the whole greater. So I'm constantly trying to continue to learn and adjust to remain relevant in the environment of the customer.
Exactly. And so how long have you been in sales?
Well, that can age away, right? So over
So
30 years. I would say I've been in sales over 30 years, managing people over 25, and probably leading 20, right, in chronological order, because I think you develop into from manager and leader is I think have got different connotations, so you don't just jump from one to the other.
Yeah, I totally agree. So over that course of time, sales has obviously changed drastically through technology and people and the way people like to be dealt with. But I guess we can talk more recent times with the lockdown. How have you seen changing? How have you seen the changes happen in terms of what people are selling and how they're selling?
So I often think back, and sometimes I cite examples to people that I think they're not going to recognize. So if I give a few, some people will define their age if they recognize these things. So one would be to communicate or quote a customer, you sent a fax. You didn't type it away on your email anywhere you were, or even on your phone and ping away. You didn't have auto formatting systems that made it all nice and whizzy.
No Grammarly.
They worked it all out, put the terms and conditions, did it all for you, boom, 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 electronic signing, all that stuff. It was send them a fax, they raise a PO. Sometimes it was, I remember getting orders that are posted in saying complex IT equipment, and you would open an envelope and there was your order, sort of thing. It was that, they didn't even fax it back. And those were times when, if you did have a mobile phone, it was the size of a house, and you to carry it around, you carried a massive bag with a battery. Yeah, I started with one of those ones, and was very proud of the mobile phone then, because it was everyone wanted to see, wow, I'd never seen one before, sort of thing. And these were the times also when you went to present to a prospective customer. Excuse me, you wouldn't have PowerPoint, which is probably overdone now. You would use some horrible, I forget the names of them, design tool, print out your slides onto acetate, or photocopy them onto acetate, and then go and have an overhead projector, which sometimes you had to even take with you, put them on, lift it off, put it on, lift it off, and project, right? Which is great to write on it with a pen, and
I used to love it.
It was very school teacherish, but that wasn't so long ago. And to your point, technology has moved incredibly fast. I work in that sector with cloud technology, to the point where we all have incredible power and smart devices through apps, etc. We all expect to be able to access anything, anytime, any place on any device. And the customer knows that, and the customer expects it. So it's not just changed the salesperson's life, it's changed the buyer persona and the dynamic of the customer. The buyer dynamic has changed in that if you think about all of us as customers, you as a buyer, me as a buyer, whatever we're dealing with, if you go to a website of something and you can't find an easy way to interact, you move on quick. If you're looking for, whether it be a plumber, or you're looking for a piece of technology, or whatever you're looking to buy, product or service, you typically look first and do some research and self-serve, so you can research and you know, I've got a locksmith coming just to check a broken bit of key in a lock today, and you know, I quickly went on Checkatrade, looked for credible people in the local area, checked the ratings, and then contacted a few of them through that who were easily contactable. I didn't go on the phone each and look through the yellow pages. The world's changed. We react and behave differently. Yell, you know, Amazon, Uber, all these different things have all gone online, and we take them for granted. And the millennial and the Zeds growing up into this have been born into it. They don't know a time when anything was slower. They've got no contingency for or patience for, well, yeah, but not everyone's moved into that. Their world is, I can click, get what I want, and I get it now. I get it fast, I get it now. And if I don't, I'm somewhere else. So that makes the job of a organization and the sales part of an organization different, because the customer is less tolerable of delays. It isn't, oh yeah, well, get me that in a week or two. People are, and you get me that tomorrow, or you can get me it now. When am I getting that price? And that's because we're in a world where it's heightened speed. Where I used to talk about the MTV generation, because it was all short snippets and short. We're now in the hyper MTV generation, where everything is, I want it fast, I want it now, I want it quick, I want it short, simple. How do I, you know, just I want to move on. And you context what's just happened. What's just happened is the world has just changed around us. It's the only time I think I've ever spoken about anything where, and I do a number of, you know, I often speak at events, not at the moment, obviously, but and write blogs, where you can context something that everyone understands and has the same context point. Everyone.
That's such a good point.
Because it's affected everyone worldwide at the same time. You could talk previously about, well, there's a recession or there's this challenging, but it was regional, it was demographic wise. This is gone across all demographics, all ages, all countries. So there's a consistent context point, and it's changed business. It's changed business, right? And some businesses are totally shut down right now, and you can't reach them by phone, and you have to go electronically and request, and you might get a call back. So what's happened, I think, is for some people, for salespeople, this has probably been the easiest transition, because certainly for field salespeople, we work remote anyway, right? We've got laptops, we've got the mobile phone, we're used to working on the move. So in terms of operationally, this is no different. The change it has impacted, though, is we're not used to everyone else being remote as well. So you can usually call back to your office and they're all there in the physicality and able to do stuff. And it's put challenges on the back office and other parts and processes of businesses, which therefore impact sales. And some businesses have all but shut down, and some businesses can't sell, right? If you're in the airline industry and trying to sell flights, it's a pretty hard thing right now.
But how do you think that moving forward operationally businesses are going to adapt to this? Because, for example, you know, are you yourself going to change the way that you sort of train up a salesman after this because of what's happened?
Well, interestingly, we've brought new people on, but we're in a luxurious position, and we have gratitude for this. That the technology we sell is cloud telephony. So right now it's in demand, and we are all fully operational. The whole business is up and running, and we're as business as unusual as we can be, because we're working from home, but we're all doing stuff, making, you know, we're transacting business. It's affected. Some deals have delayed, some customers have created new projects, and some have brought forward projects depending on the dynamics it's put into their world. So we're in a position where business as usual, and for our customers who buy our solution, the majority of those, depending on the sector they're in, but a lot of those are up and running as well, because the nature of what they wanted was a system that enabled you to use your phone anywhere, anytime, any place, etc.
How are you going about sort of managing your teams then?
Yeah, so that's I think that's the more challenging thing when you are up and running, is the psychology and the difference that you can't, you know, you've lost the human touch. But we're using things like this. We're doing video calls. So every morning, from the sales perspective, so there's a few hints here, I guess, for people if they're not doing these things. We have a huddle at 9 o'clock every morning, and it's, if you're not on a customer call, got something that's absolutely critical to be done, or you haven't got your kids going off, or your food delivery coming because you managed to get one 3 months ago, it's finally turned up. then we jump on that call, and that call isn't a right, let's go through what prospect and what you did. It's a bit of that, but it's a bit of how's everyone doing. So it's the banter, it's the coffee banter. It's, what did you watch last night? Oh, you got some guys, you got to watch this program. Has anyone watched this? So it's a bit of that to keep the engagement going between people and not let them feel distance, and building. And it's interesting because it's building, in a way, some more rapport than being in the office, because in the office you tend to have your little groups that huddle and chat in the morning. This is everyone, so you're getting more of a cross piece going on. But we're doing that in small teams. It's not the whole company. Our CEO is doing a weekly call, so I give him credence for that, which is 15 minutes. It's not illustrious. It's just, look, this is what we're doing. This is the latest update we're hearing from the government. This is our opinion of when things might and what we want you to do. And our HR team is keeping an eye and listening to the teams and input from anyone in the business, and calling into people where if they feel there's any concern, and proactively offering up, do you need any help, or do you just need a chat? So we're doing everything we can to keep this, because the staff, we've got to have a business to come back to, right?
Exactly.
So regardless if we're operational now, the human, how we engage with those individuals during this period shows the DNA of the company and shows our company values. Do you want to switch off or lose contact and let them get into a non-work mode, or the company doesn't really care, or I've lost contact, and then when they come back, what psychological effects that going to have on them? Are we going to have PTSD type effects from the isolation stuff, right? Because once you're at home, and it's not a bad place to be, you're not stuck in a jail cell somewhere, but it is and you can go out and have a walk, but it is a bit encroaching on. Yeah, absolutely. So it is going to affect people, right? And the nature of the beast, you're not getting the variety. So we're trying to keep as much variety and communication in place, to keep our staff's mental health on the right bar, so that when we are in the position when we can come back in whatever way that shapes out, we are as operational as we can. And we're also planning and looking at what do we do when we come back to assist those staff, and what do we do to engage them. So wherever some of the team have done pop quizzes, right? We're doing quizzes on I think it's a Thursday night.
I think people haven't done quizzes so much before in their life.
Yeah, I know. And all the tools have freed themselves up to do it, right? So everyone's discovering new tools to share the screen and this thing, which is interesting to see how people have adapted.
Definitely. Let's talk about the sales side of things then, because you've been in the sales game a while. How do you keep yourself motivated? Because I often speak to salespeople and they, 1 minute they're on cloud 9, the next minute they're not. And it is quite a turmoil relationship often. But how, with yourself, do you keep yourself motivated, keep yourself inspired to continue in this industry?
So I think now, having been in it a long time, I've become more thick-skinned to it. I think younger salespeople often struggle. There's some interesting stats around that talk around the number of people that go into a sales role, their first sales role, and then never stay in sales.
Wow.
Because what I always say to people coming into sales is, in other roles, you get typically you get an appraisal once a year. So you do your job, you get a little bit of feedback along the way. You're doing it sort of okay, and then once a year you get this appraisal where it's measured, and that might relate to your chances of getting a pay rise and all this stuff. With sales, and that appraisal is confidential, right? You might come out and say to your colleague, "Oh, well, I could have done a bit better there. I thought it was stronger," but in the whole, it's pretty private. With sales, you get an appraisal constantly. It's every month, what were your last numbers, and typically they're monthly, some companies are weekly, etc., and it's public. So I say to people, publicly, people know how you're doing. The appraisal is visible to everyone, because the number one thing you're there to do is to generate business, whether it's new business, upsell, repeat, whatever you're in, and that has visibility in the business, which is, when you're doing well, is fantastic. Look, number one salesperson, it's on the board. Look, gold cup award, whatever it is. When you're not, doesn't feel so great, because everyone else can see it and say, well, so it's an emotive roller coaster that you've got to be able to bear. And I've always said, and I say to my people today, and the team is, even if you're the top salesperson, doesn't mean you will be next month, next quarter, next year.
Yeah.
And you've got to wear that. You've got to go, look, the high, you've got to be able to take the lows with the highs. Everyone can take the highs, and they look, we just done a great deal, and there's commission coming, and I've got the badge on the wall, and I'm on the league table. Everyone can take that, That's not the proof of the pudding. It's how consistent can you be over a long time, and how do you wear the dips? Because any salesperson that sits in front of me in an interview and I say, well, and when have you had a bad thing? We lost a dip, or it's been bad. They, no. Everyone has a bad month or a quarter. Everyone.
Exactly.
It's the nature of the beast. You cannot, unless you're selling a product which it sells itself off the shelves, is unique and no one else on the planet's got. You just invented a teleporter and it's £100 each. Guess
Bargain.
what? Doesn't need much selling, right?
Exactly.
But in reality is you can't win every deal. No product or service is right for every customer in every situation. You will make mistakes as a human being in a sales engagement. You're dealing with other humans. The other humans at times will be a different personality type than yours, and you won't get on, or they won't like you, not because there's anything bad with you or you're wrong. It's just the nature of the world. We don't all like and get on with everyone. So that's the nature of it. And you have to be able to take that in the mix. And that's what makes, I think, a strong salesperson, is resilience and the understanding that typically it's not personal. It might be because they didn't warm to you and they really love the other salesperson, or they've dealt with the other salesperson in previous companies, so they had an advantage, or they know someone who knows someone and they leverage that. But everyone is a learning exercise. So the thing I say to salespeople is, when you lose a deal that matters and you've got rapport with that customer, either you or I've done it on many occasions, is right, great, phone the customer back. And the setting for the call is, I'm not going to try and convince you or anything. All I wish to do is learn, have some of your time to learn something from it. If you wouldn't mind, for the time I invested in our engagement. And you ask them, I really enjoyed dealing with you. I'm disappointed I didn't win the business, but could you help me learn from it, please? That's the value I could take away from the effort I did put in. Why did we lose? What could I have done better? Give me some hints, because I can use that for another engagement to be better. You'll give me, and an awful lot of customers are kind enough to go, well, look, you did put effort in and I liked you and you really tried hard, and they'll tell you, and sometimes it's something you missed that you should have missed. Sometimes even if you'd known, you couldn't have done anything about it, right?
Why do you think that so many people, or so many, not salespeople but people in general, really fear asking for that feedback?
I don't know if before fearing it, I'd suggest, from the feedback I've got when I've done some coaching and training on this before, is they haven't thought of doing it.
So it's just not aware. It's not in their awareness.
I've lost the deal. I'm really disappointed.
The next one.
But why wouldn't you go back and go, well, actually, I'm going to get something out of the time I spent into this? Ask them. Or a salesperson assumes they know why. We lost because we didn't have this feature, or I think we lost because the others discounted and did this. But that's an assumption, and we all know the definition of that, right? So, and I challenge them, is okay, but is that your belief? Yeah. Has the customer told you that? No. Did they infer it? Well, I think that's how I've understood it. Right. So why wouldn't you give them a call? Did you get on well with them? Yeah, I think so. Would they take a call from you? Yeah, give them a call. And if you're not willing to do it, I will do it as a salesman and say, look, one of my salespeople was really disappointed they didn't win your business and they're beating themselves up about it. And I like to coach them, and I'll do it. If you don't want to do it, I'll do it. You've got to do that and learn from it, because you find out.
And that's the point, isn't it? To be a better salesperson, you've got to have feedback. You've got to learn from everything that you do.
Otherwise, for all you know, you'll make the same mistake the next time because you don't know the mistake you did make.
Yeah, exactly. Or like you said, you assume the answer and you then assume that same answer for everything else. I'm really curious to know, though, because, with so many trainers out there, the access to sales training has just become incredibly easy. What are your thoughts on some of these gurus and that you see out there that are promoting products, promoting sales systems, let's put it that way? What are your thoughts on them? Because I see a lot of people buying those sort of products and then it's not working out for them. Shocker. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, let's be frank, right? I'm a member of the Association of Professional Sales, the Institute of Sales Marketing, all the different sales associations, and I'm active fellow of them. So I get the pleasure and the benefit to meet with a lot of other sales leaders of different industries. And that's one of the big things of being in those groups. It's not your isolated profile of technology. It's, you're in what? You're in food distribution. So you get to hear a more rounded view. And the rounded view here is getting leads and getting the sales pipe is hard for everyone right now. On wholesale, it's hard. Sales is hard, and that's pre-COVID. So it's now got more challenging, and everyone is looking for the golden key. So when I do a podcast, webinar, blog, whatever it is, or speak at an event, I always context and start with, I don't, I'm going to talk about social selling, whatever it is. Firstly, guys, this is not the golden key to fix all your problems. It is a contributor that might help you. You might learn some things, and you might get some marginal gains from things I can say that you didn't know that you can apply in your business. But if you think this is going to be a flicker switch, it's not out there. I'd like to find that, right? There's one thing, do this one thing, and wow, it changes your world.
Turn on
it
the
doesn't
money.
exist. Doesn't exist. But sales coaching, firstly, I think it is a value, and I've been in companies before where I've said, oh, look, I want to bring a sales coach in to do some stuff, and I've had the comment, well, look, hang on a minute, with your experience and what we hired you to do, you shouldn't need that, i.e. you know it all, Ian.
Wow.
Right? It shouldn't. That's the wrong answer and the wrong dynamic of the company, because I don't know it all. I know what I know from the context of the experiences that I've had on my journey. I haven't had everyone's journey. A sales coach has had different journeys and different experiences working with different companies. I don't know what I don't know. So to that context, I've used many coaches over the years. I've just pulled one in that was introduced to us, who has really, it's disrupted me. And I sat in with my salespeople and said, guys, I'm learning a ton here. I need to unpick a lot of things I've learned, because you mentioned their process. And people get, I think now, I've learned this, is too hung up on spin, Scotsman, Taz. I can keep going.
They try and fit a blueprint to everything.
Yeah, there's 10 or 15, and they all have value in that. Yeah, you want to find out this and this, and yeah, I get it. But too many people learn those, and then the salespeople take that as I think you said then, a template of this is how I do it, formulaic. Customers don't work that way. Customers are expecting you to do that. Customers have seen that pattern behavior from 200 other salespeople, and they see it coming. And have you got a budget for this? And who would sign it off? And it's like, oh my, Bant, right? You go through Bant. I can see it.
You can almost hear the salesperson checking off the checklist as they ask those questions. Like, tick, I've asked that one. I've asked that one.
The coach we brought in, or I don't know if I'd call him a coach, is so disruptive, and it's disruptive. After 30 years of selling, it's disrupted my world of, oh my gosh, why didn't I bump into this guy earlier? Totally disrupted my whole sales team's thoughts. And we're approaching things and asking customers questions in a totally different way. And it is the results we're getting from that approach is incredible.
Yeah.
Because he's challenged our way of thinking, that it's not about the sales process, it's about the verbiage, it's about how we discuss things, how I listen. But then the question I ask is incredibly important, of how I phrase that question and how I context it to get you to share some information with me that if I asked a different way, you're not going to share with me. I want all the difficult information that the other 5 salespeople you're engaging with didn't get 10% of it, but you see the value because the way I've asked it, and you've given me that value. Now, because of that, I have a competitive advantage. Doesn't mean I'm going to win, but it might mean I now say, look, we're not the right solution for you. But I was able to make that decision now, whereas the others have now spent 3 months with you and wasted a load of time. So, I think it's critical. You've got to learn. But to your point, go back to your question, is there's a lot of people banding the guru thing. Yeah, I've watched it on social selling and social media, right? There's a lot of people saying, we will teach you how to do this wondrous stuff with all the social platforms and sales environment, whatever. And my context and question for them, anyone looking at those, is how have they learned to do that? Now, I train on social selling, I speak on it, etc. But I learned it before it wasn't called social selling. I didn't go on a course. I tried to stay relevant. Running sales teams, it's got harder. I was constantly looking at what am I missing, and I started to dip into social media. Well, LinkedIn first, then Twitter, and through doing that, got interested in it. So I've learned the hard way by building the stuff, right? By getting things wrong, by living it and getting my hands dirty.
That's way to do it.
And making an awful lot of mistakes, and I'm still learning today, and I'm tweaking things. And how do you make your LinkedIn profile stand out on a list view when someone sees it? Out of 50 profiles, I'll spot yours, and it's 10-second job. but I figured that out myself. And now I see lots of people doing it and experts mentioning it, but some don't. But because I've gone the hard route of the reason I did this is not to set up as a trainer or to train people on it, is the groundwork. I'm trying to sell more. I'm trying to stay relevant in a different world. So I'm fighting. I've got the,
Oh yeah, social media has caused such a intense struggle for lots of people to feel like they need to be seen as top. You mentioned earlier about how before, you'd have faxes and things were a lot slower. Now things are so fast paced and instant. Again, like you said earlier, people make a decision so quickly that if you're not standing out or if you're not doing something slightly different, you just get lost in the noise. And then people get super frustrated and all these other aspects come in and they go, hey, I wonder why my business isn't doing very good, or I wonder why I'm not selling, or I wonder why we're not recruiting at the moment. It's because you're not thinking outside the box. And it's really refreshing actually to hear from you that you've brought in this coach into the business and it's disrupting your head as well, because like we said, you're the guy that has been around and training and learning yourself. So to know that you can also be disruptive is really refreshing, because again, I've met a few sales trainers and leaders that perhaps don't have that sort of mindset. They do have that mind.
Yeah, Stephen, you've got to today. We've all got muscle memory. The great example I give is if you drive a manual car in the UK and you go to America, or you go to a left-hand drive, and I test drove once, and that was the end of that. You will invariably bang your gear hand on the window because your muscle memory goes for the gear stick, and you can't help yourself. That happens to you when you've been in sales a long time. You become habitual. And the habits you've built up may have worked 10 years ago, whenever.
Yeah.
But it's hard to change. It is. And I'm always saying you need to have the skills that are relevant today need to become habitual, or you will forget to do them. And you can't go on a training course for 2 days, come back, and then that's changed you. It won't.
Yeah.
It's got to be a constant reinforcement of every engagement. So my team through this training is all actively involved with this individual, doing calls, actively involved again and again. And we're still doing it now remotely, but they're coaching each other. They're challenging each other of, but did you, I didn't go that route. Because it's hard to get into new habits, but once you get them, it becomes second nature, right? Whatever you take up, whether it's martial arts, whether it's driving, whether a hobby or goal, initially it feels awkward. You've got to keep doing it the good way until it programs into you and it becomes muscle memory. Then it just becomes natural behavior and you're in a better place.
Yeah. And even on top of that, once it becomes natural behavior and it does become muscle memory, you still should be checking on it, because even if you passed, driving is a great example, you pass your test, and after your test, you're probably the best driver you're ever going to be at that point, because every moment from there, you then start getting a bit lazy, you start doing, you start going over the roundabout rather than round the roundabout, all these different avenues. And you have to do what you've done with yourself in terms of bringing this coach, disrupt yourself, rethink yourself, get rid of some of those cobwebs that are on everybody in terms of when they're doing stuff.
And that's where leadership, and sorry to interrupt, that's where sales leadership comes in. You need to apply the cadences to your team that keep them on that track and keep checking in with them that they're still doing the good behaviors. And you've got to have sales cadences that are consistent, communicated, measured, reported on, visible. And I do this with the guys, right? Have you got any simple guidance? Have dashboards that show any opportunity you've got with an overdue activity, any opportunities that don't have a next activity. There you go, flag them and everyone can see it. So it's totally visible, and you need to self-police yourself. And you can have all these cadences that are all simple things, but they need to be visible. So create nice dashboards in your CRM that make it easy for everyone to see where they are on a league table. But it's simple stuff. Like, well, why would I have that on? It's such a simple dashboard. Yes, but you think a salesperson is checking every op every day. All those little things.
Do your future self a favor.
Yeah, help make it easy for them to do the right behavior.
Ian, listen. Already you've given me so much wisdom here, but I would love to just wrap up this interview and ask you one final question. If you could give 3 things, 3 bits of your wisdom, 3 tips to other people that perhaps are getting into that funk of, they've done the same thing repetitively, they're perhaps not getting the same results. As a sales trainer, what would be some of the things that you would say to them to help them get out that funk and look at things at a new angle?
Yeah, so number one is totally relevant to where we are with COVID right now, and I've said this on a number of different talks I've done, is the biggest question consistently that will be asked coming out of COVID in the work environment, whether you're going for new interviews or whatever, what did you do during COVID? And what do you want the answer to be? Do you want it to be, well, I watched a lot on Netflix and I spent time with the kids and I did the garden, painted the house, all the jobs I did? Or do you want it to be, yes, some of that is natural behavior. Or do you want it to be, I learned something new. I learned a new skill. And right now you have time to, whether it be learn a new skill, or, there's people learning languages. I've set my team, we work in the Salesforce ecosystem. Salesforce has a thing called Trailhead, which is something like 700-800 online training courses with mini certifications you can do for free. Right, guys, every week I'm targeting them. Where are you on the lead points on that? So how many trails have you done? That we're all, and I'm involved in that as well. Let's come out of this, that we're all at this level. Let's do that over the weeks, a little bit every day, every week. Some days you won't have time for something, but let's come out of it at the end that we've built up all these little things, and wow, look what an achievement. Right. And the beauty is for salespeople right now, there are a ton of resources out there that people are kindly offering and accessing up for free. Go and look at the Association of Professional Sales, Institute of Sales Management, etc. And there's stuff you can do to improve your skills and get CPD credits during this period and make value of this time. And what does that say about you as an individual to your current company, your employer, your manager, your director? When they say, what did you do? Oh, well, I've just gone and I learned this about sales. I went through these two. Really? Whoa. How much does that show that you're investing in yourself? Go and read some sales books. You can order books off Amazon right now, right? You can still get stuff. Go and buy 3 sales books and read them over this period. And even if you learn 2% of stuff, you're better than you were before. Be open to change. So the second one, be open to change consistently. The number of times I hear people think they're baked because you've been doing it a long time, so you're done, right? You couldn't learn much. You don't know what you don't know. The world is changing, and what for a third one?
Third one's always the hard one.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a question for your third one.
I'll tell you a third one. Right now, your personal brand is more important than it's ever been before because we are all engaging digitally. We're all doing these video calls. How do you look on everything online? Because people are more likely now to look at your profile online because they're calling you online. It's not you're coming in their office and meeting them. They're going to do this sort of video call with you. So they're on their PC while they're talking to you. It's more likely they're going to click on your LinkedIn. How do you look online? Go and tune up your profile. Look at stuff I've done to search my name with personal branding. Loads of stuff out there with top tips. It's all simple to do, all small jobs that can make you look more professional online really easily. And now's the time to do it.
Definitely. I'm going to ask for a fourth then because you kind of led yourself into this one. What would be the top 2 sales books you would recommend anyone to buy?
Oh, that's a hard one, Nick. If you saw my shelves, there's hundreds of them.
You mentioned it.
Yeah, I would say right now, with the world being as it is electronic, I would go and look at Social Selling by Tim Hughes. And Tim's a friend of mine, so I'll disclose that I know these people. I'm going to give you 3 instances. No More Cold Calling from Joanne Black, who I also know is a US author. And that doesn't mean there's no picking up the phone, by the way. It just means you need to do things differently than just pick up the phone. There's more color around it. Go and read the book. And the £1 Million LinkedIn Message by Daniel Disney, who's a British guy who's built up his own business around helping companies who don't understand how to use LinkedIn. And I know all those individuals and recommend them highly, but those are 3 good ones that are easily readable and digestible. There's no rocket science, and you'll take away insights that you can utilize quickly.
Good man. Ian, thank you so much for coming on. My final question to you is, if anyone wants to get in touch with you directly, what's the best way for them to do that?
Thanks, Stephen. And this is a personal branding tip in itself then. So if you go to ianmoyse.co.uk or ianmoyse.cloud, those will take you directly to my LinkedIn and my Twitter profiles. So that's another personal branding tip. It takes very little money. It's something like, I don't know, maybe 15 quid a year, 10 quid a year or something to buy those domains. if your name's unfortunately one that people is a famous person, you might have a different challenge. But and I've just mapped them in seconds to my social profile, so I don't have to make you go to LinkedIn and search for my name. I'm customer facing and thinking about your experience in trying to engage with me.
Love it. Ian, thank you so much for coming on, especially on a bank holiday. And I hope you have an amazing day. And let's catch up when this is all over properly.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks, Steven.
Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks everyone for watching. This has been Founders 365.